Week 1 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 15 quarterbacks I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. This week, a great matchup versus the Dallas Cowboy defense that I think is going to be a bottom 5 unit in the league this season. Dallas just traded away Micah Parsons. And Jalen Hurts, we know he can do it all. Run the football, that tush push has been a clutch thing for his fantasy value over the last couple seasons. Always amongst the league leaders in rushing touchdowns at the position. And when you have great options in the offense, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith as your receivers, Barkley in the backfield that could catch the football and take a screen to the house for 60, 70 yards, and got it at tight end. So with all those factors, and he's had a great track record versus the Cowboys in his career. This week, he's got the top spot. Number 2, Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. So this week, a good matchup versus the New York Giants. Even though this Giant defense definitely has some good pass rush and could be a team that's amongst the league leaders this year in sacks on projections. But this week, Jaden Daniels, home opener last season, great run it was for them to get to the NFC Championship. And now they add Deebo Samuel to this offense. Even though I know Deebo's better years are behind him, he's still way more productive than any number 2 receiver they had on the roster last season. So with a decent matchup, his rushing upside, and last year, monster rookie season for Daniels. I think he goes out there once again, has a good game. Number 3, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. So Lamar and Josh Allen obviously dropped just for this week. Tougher matchup versus good defenses and versus each other. This could be a high-scoring game, or it could be a little bit of a feel-it-out process between these two teams. But Lamar, we know, is the best rushing quarterback of all time. You know he's going to get numbers. He's got good offense. Derrick Henry, obviously Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman is a deep ball threat. Even the veteran DeAndre Hopkins, we'll see if he gets in there. But Lamar Jackson this week, just because of the matchup. If it was any other week, he's easily 1 or 2. But like I said, Hurts and Daniels, I like their matchups and upside just a little bit more. Number 4, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. So Baltimore, in my opinion, a top 5 defense coming into the season. So this could be a tough ball game for Allen. But Allen, obviously matchup proof. He was the first or second quarterback off the board in many fantasy leagues as Josh Allen. I know they didn't really upgrade in the receiving room, but he's just that quarterback that's going to get his rushing yards, spread the football out. It doesn't matter to who. And this week, even in a tough matchup, he's a top 5 option. Number 5, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. So maybe I'm lower on Burrow than consensus coming into the week. But believe it or not, Burrow's had struggles versus the Cleveland Browns in his career. And like I said, Burrow last year, he lit it up, no doubt about it. A lot of games they were trailing. But this ball game could be a game script where they're up early and you don't have to drop back and throw the football 55, 60 times as Burrow. Even though when you got wide receivers like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, points are going to just come on yards after catch and put up numbers. But like I said, the only reason I'm lower on Burrow this week is of the track record versus the Browns. And you really can't argue that the 4 quarterbacks ahead of him obviously are better options coming into the season. And overall, number 6, Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A monster year was for Baker last season, over 4,000 yards, over 40 touchdowns. He's got great options in the offense. I know Liam Cohen's gone, their offensive coordinator, head coach of the Jaguars, but I think Baker's going to be fine. Him and Mike Evans have been locked in since he got there. They got the impressive first-round rookie receiver, Mecca Ibuka. I think he could be solid as the number 2 over there. We know Godwin's out to October and Jalen McMillan's out. You also got K-Dot and then Bucky Irvin, who's a solid running back receiving out of the backfield. And this week in a potential high-scoring game at division rival, the Atlanta Falcons, I think Mayfield could go out there, have a good ball game. Number 7, Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix, last season, he was a surprise, obviously, for the Broncos and fantasy owners. What a good year he had. And his rushing upside is pretty solid as well, where he could rush for anywhere from 400 to 500 yards when the season's over. So this week, a lot of people think it's an amazing matchup. I think it's a good matchup, but Tennessee's defense, a little underrated. But Bo Nix, they added some good options to the offense this season. Evan Ingram at tight end. In the backfield, Dobbins, they drafted R.J. Harvey, who could be a help at receiving the football out of the backfield. And also drafted Pat Bryant. So Bo Nix with his rushing ability, solid options with Sutton and Ingram as the top 2 options in the passing game, and a decent matchup this week here versus Tennessee. I think Bo Nix is a fine option. Number 8, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. So now Rashee Rice, we know he suspended the first 6 games of the season for this Kansas City Chief team. Is Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce, still got Xavier Worthy, who could be a second-year breakout as their number 1. Got Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, even though I think he's at the latter part. And this week it's a matchup, obviously, the division foe very familiar with and a good record against. And it's an international game where I think he's going to be amped up even more is Mahomes in this one. So this week, I think Mahomes, he could go out there, have a solid game. Even without Rashee Rice, he was pretty much without Rice all last season, even though the numbers weren't great. But it wouldn't be surprising me this year if Mahomes picks it up and gets back to close to the numbers he was putting up 2-3 years ago. Number 9, Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. So this week, a middle-of-the-pack matchup, another division game at the Seahawks here. And Brock Purdy, he got the big contract after he was a 7th-round pick in the NFL draft a few seasons ago. We know there's a lot of injuries and a lot of changing parts in the receiving room from this offseason to now with the San Francisco 49er team. It looks like Ricky Pearsall is going to be the number 1 wide receiver to start the season. Jawan Jennings, it's not looking good he's going to play. But George Kittle, we know, is the number 1 option in the passing game. And it always helps to get Christian McCaffrey back out of the backfield. Still one of the best receiving backs in the league. So Brock Purdy with his rushing upside and still great options in the offense. Even with Ayuk out for a few weeks more, Debo traded off. I like him this week as a top 10 option. Number 10, Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. So last season it was an up and down year for Murray. He averaged 17 points per game in fantasy points. Is Murray still a decent number? Every year he finishes within that top 12 in fantasy points. And they got a good offense, in my opinion, is Arizona. Obviously, Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the league. Marvin Harrison, I think it could be a bounce-back second season for him. James Conner in the backfield. And this week, a great matchup at New Orleans where their defense is decimated with a lot of guys leaving over the last couple seasons, and they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. So Kyler Murray, with all that said, and obviously his rushing ability, I think he could be a top 10 option. 11, Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions. So maybe I'm higher on Goff than consensus. I know it's a tough matchup at the Green Bay Packers, but Jared Goff, when you got all those type of weapons in this offense, St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Montgomery out of the backfield, I think it's going to be a nice day for Jared Goff, even at a good defense in Green Bay. This offense is a well-oiled machine. I know Ben Johnson left. He went on to head coach division rival, the Chicago Bears, but this system's still going to run. His assistant taking over now as the offensive coordinator. And Jared Goff last season, over 4,000 yards, over 35 touchdowns, and this offense is loaded where I have more confidence in him than these bottom 4 guys mentioned. Number 12, Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. So this week's not an ideal matchup. One of the best defenses in the league and division rival the Cowboys are going to with the Philadelphia Eagles with some of the best corners. But this is a game where I see could get out of hand early, and Dak and the Cowboys have no choice but to drop back 45, 50 times. And he's got great options. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, one of the best receivers in the league. George Pickens was a nice pickup. He's on a contract year. I think he could be in for a big season. You got Jake Ferguson re-signing an extension, and this running room isn't very intriguing. So I think this Cowboy team is going to be a pass-first team this season, in this game especially trailing. So I think that could work his way into numbers. 13, Drake May, the New England Patriots. So this week, a pretty decent matchup versus the Raiders. I thought Drake May last season, he showed some flashes in the games we saw him down the stretch last year for the New England Patriots. And this year they upgraded in the offense as well, is New England. Obviously, Stephon Diggs, they signed him to a nice contract. He should be ready to go in this one. Still got Hunter Henry, and we know a young quarterback security blanket is the tight end position. An impressive running back rookie as well, Trevion Henderson, they took in the NFL draft. So with all those factors and a good matchup versus a rated defense, that really can't stop anyone. I like Drake May as a fringe number 1 QB this week. 14, Justin Fields of the New York Jets. I know it's a tough matchup this week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, his former team. But, Justin Fields, one of the best rushing upside quarterbacks in the league. And, he's got the juices flowing where the Steelers just pulled him last year after I thought he was playing well when they went with the veteran Russell Wilson in there, even though both those quarterbacks are out. So Justin Fields, the rushing upside's there. He's got a true number 1 wideout in Garrett Wilson, obviously a good running back in Breece Hall. It's going to be a grinded-out type of game, but with his rushing ability each and every week, and they gave him the keys to being the quarterback as his Jet team, signing him 2 years, $40 million. I think Fields, he's going to go out there and play his game, and like I said, versus former team, have some extra motivation. And the 15th and final quarterback on rankings, Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Lawrence, he definitely could be a sleeper this season. He was undrafted in tons of fantasy leagues coming into the year. This week, a great matchup versus the Panthers, one of the worst defenses in the league. He's got great options in the offense. Brian Thomas Jr., breakout rookie season. Travis Hunter, I think, He's going to play majority receiver than corner. And you're not going to trade, like I've said in other videos, all that trade draft capital to get, obviously, Travis Hunter on this team and not use him majority of the time at the receiver position. And also the backfield, not great, but a decent committee of ETN, obviously, and Tank Bigsby and the rookie Bashal Tootin. So they got the options in the offense is Trevor Lawrence. He's got some rushing upside. And this guy, obviously, was a first pick many seasons ago. He got the big contract as well. And we saw him have a breakout year a few years ago, but health's been the issue for Lawrence. But I think this season with Liam Cohen there, this offense could improve. And we saw what he did wonders as the offensive coordinator for the Bucs. So that's a top 15 quarterbacks I'm ranking for week 1 of the fantasy football season.